Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tracy. Thank you so much for the 5,000 subscribers. I can't thank you guys enough for all of the support. I'm always so happy to share my knowledge. And for this upcycle tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I use botanical dyes. For this DIY, you're going to need some alum powder, which is used for pickling, and you can usually find this at your local grocery store, but I get mine from my local spice store, Dual, but you can also purchase alum powder online. And I also have hibiscus flowers. So you can usually find this hibiscus at any large grocery store. You can also just order some online or find it at a tea and spice store. You're also going to need 2 buckets and a dyeing pot for this project. You can dye fabric or also a garment, and I dyed this vintage bra I picked up at the thrift store. It was white before, but the hibiscus gave me this really nice muted peach color. Hibiscus reacted differently with the different fabrics. As you can see, the trim is slightly more a champagne color versus the lace on the bra. I will also show you guys how to repair a bra, and I picked this one at the thrift store as well, and it was so beautiful I couldn't pass it up, even though the lace that was on this previously, the bra was torn. So I'm just going to show you guys how I replaced the lace on this bra. Stay tuned for next week's video. I'm going to be making a bustier top just because it's been highly requested and everyone's obsessed with all of the undergarments in Bridgerton. So I'm just going to make my version of a stay and a bustier and mix them together to modernize it. So I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is the vintage bra I found at the thrift store. It's Eve Stillman for Lady Marlene. As you can see, there was a stain on it, so I thought it'd be a great chance to dye this. I start by washing the bra and just adding a little bit of soap. I tried to scrub off that stain, but it wouldn't come out, so that didn't work, but we're gonna dye it anyway, so it should be fine. And you can also do this with lace fabric, so just take your fabric and just wash it with some soap to get all of the finishes off. After washing your item with detergent, place it in a bucket. I got my buckets from Home Depot. In a designating dyeing pot, take about 2 liters of water and bring it to a boil. Once the water is brought to a boil, you're going to take some alum powder, and alum is used for pickling. So this is just a mordant in order for the color to stick to the fiber. I'm just adding 2 spoons of alum to the water and then just stirring it like so. Once all the alum is stirred in, you're going to take your boiling water and just pour it into that bucket, covering your item. I take my designated dyeing whisk and just stir this so it's evenly coated, and you're just going to let this sit for a full 24 hours and just stir occasionally. In another bucket, just add a liter of room temperature water and take your hibiscus. I didn't measure how much hibiscus I poured on, but I just poured enough until it covered the top of the water like so, and depending on how dark you want your color or light, you can add more or less. And this will also sit for a full 24 hours, so the water can just soak up all the color from the hibiscus. While we let that sit, I'm just taking this bra that I also thrifted, and as you can see, the lace is ripped, so I wanted to just upcycle it. So I'm just going to show you guys how to take apart the lace and just replace it. I start by taking my seam ripper and just seam ripping the strap point like so, and I'm just kind of seam ripping the rest of this armhole elastic. Next, I start seam ripping the seam on the underwire. As you can see, it's connected to the regular floral fabric, so I'm just opening up the wire channel and just removing the wire first, just because it'll be easier to sew it back together. Next, I just start by removing the stabilizer like so, and after I've removed the stabilizer, I go ahead and just start seam ripping the seam that connects the lace and the bottom of the cup. Once I reach the end of that seam, as you can see, it's connected to the front part of the underwire, so I just start by seam ripping the front portion open like so until I reach the floral part of the fabric. After removing the lace, just iron it so it's completely flat, and take your lace galloon and just line up the low points of the scallop with that piece and just pin it down. After it's pinned in place, I just take my rotary cutter and just cut that new lace piece out. After cutting out one lace piece, I just take the lace galloon and just find the mirror image of that and just match it up, and then just cut out the other side. And there you have it. You have the two new lace pieces for the bra. I start by taking the lace and just re-pinning it onto that seam, and I sew a 1/4 inch. That's what the seam allowance was on the previous lace, so just remember your seam allowances so you sew it back up properly. So I'm just sewing that. Press that seam open and just place your stabilizer back on top of that seam on the inside, and it's nice that you have like the other cup to reference how it was sewn, so you can just like look at that and just re-sew it up. So just pin it in place, and after I pin it, I like to baste it so the pins aren't in the way when I do the 1/8 of an inch top stitch on the top. On the right side of the fabric, I do an 1/8 of an inch top stitch right next to that seam just to hold down the stabilizer on each side. After top stitching, just remove the basting stitch. And now I want to just pin that side right back into the underwire like so. So I start by pinning that, and then I'm just going to do a stitch right on the underwire binding. And now I want to just sew back up the front part of the wire channel, but first I start by placing the gore where it belongs. So I just measured the other side and just made sure it was lined up to the new side, and I pin it in place, and then I just baste it to hold it, and then I just put it right into that wire channel and pin it down. And I just stitch right along the edge to sew up that channel. Now we just have to sew up the armhole elastic. So place the elastic towards the lace, like the picot part, if that makes sense, first, and just pin the top part and just stretch as you pin, because the elastic's always smaller. So as you can see, I'm just stretching it, and it's face down just so I can get the 1/4 inch seam allowance. I hope it's making sense. So after I pin it face down, then I turn it back and then just repin it. Take it to the sewing machine and do a 3-step zigzag, so don't forget to back tack at the end of the old stitching, and just make sure it's super secure, and then just sew all the way back up the armhole. And after your armhole is sewn back up, just take your underwire and put it back in the same way you took it out. So just make sure like the smaller side is at the center front and the longer side is at the side. That makes sense. So just make sure you're putting it back in correctly. I like to take a lighter and just burn the ends so they're not fraying, because it's a synthetic fiber, so it's just going to melt. And now I need to stitch the channel closed so the wire doesn't come out, so I'm just going to do a zigzag stitch right on top of the lace to get the channel closed. Repeat all of those steps to the other side and you have like a whole new bra. And I didn't like the plastic rings and slides the straps had on, so I just took some rose gold slides I already had. So I take a slide and just loop it through the armhole elastic like so, and a ring should be here, but all I had was slides, so I'm just using slides as a ring. And I take the strap and just unstitch that plastic ring and slide. I feed the strap up and down the new slide like so, and then I just kind of loop it through the bottom slide or ring. And you want to loosen the strap on the top of the slide like so, and then you just want to feed it through the top part of the slide and then go down and back under, if that makes sense. I know you usually do this differently, but I didn't want to like unstitch the back of the strap because I'm trying to do a lot less sewing. So then you just stitch that, and that's how you have your adjustable strap. The hibiscus has sat in the water for about 24 hours, so look how deep the color is. And the bra has soaked for 24 hours as well, absorbing all of the mordant. And I'm just taking the hibiscus and my dyeing pot. I'm taking my strainer and just pouring the hibiscus into the pot just so I can get all of the actual hibiscus leaves out. I discard the hibiscus leaves and now I just bring the water to a boil. And to enrich the color, you want to use some calcium carbonate, but I don't actually have that, but tums work because it is a main component of them. So I just like smash one tum and like only put about half of it in there so it deepens the color. And just stir it until it is completely dissolved. I remove the item from the Mordant bath and just place it into an empty bucket. And I just pour a little bit of the Mordant bath into that bucket just to cover the bottom. And then I just take the hot hibiscus bath and just pour it all in. And I just take my whisk and just stir it around. I let it sit for about 4 hours. As you can see, it's already starting to absorb some of the color. And after it's sat for about 4 hours, you want to just rinse it out with some water and some detergent. So just wash it, and you wash it until there's no more dye that runs off. This is what the final bras look like. It's such an easy upcycle. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and thank you so much for watching.